Hello, welcome to the House of Wellness. I'm Luke Darcy and happy as always to see Joe Stanley, Jacqui, Felgate and Dr Nick Carr. Welcome everyone.
Hello,
Darcy.
Always good to see you. Today we start with something sweet. Now it seems honey isn't just for spreading on your toast, Joe.
No, it's for spreading on crumpets. It's for spreading... Actually, no. Also, we're talking about the healing power of honey, Darcy, used as a food and medicine since, well, centuries really, and now scientists are saying it should make a comeback in modern medicine to replace antibiotics.
Well, because antibiotics have been overused all around the world, and unfortunately we Australian doctors are some of the worst culprits. And bacteria are becoming more resistant to the antibiotics, so we need to keep looking at other options. And honey has been known for thousands of years to have antimicrobial properties, which means it can stop the growth or kill unhealthy bugs. So it makes sense to explore its uses. And sometimes the old remedies are the best, Jack.
Oh, I love that, Dr Nick. I try a spoonful of honey with the kids if they're sick instead of jumping straight into the antibiotics, and I've had some pretty good results.
So, Jack, from honey to our bellies, now we've got for you a new study on the way about how we can trim our waistline. What can you tell us?
We do. DARS researchers at Oxford University have found that every extra inch around the waistline increases the risk of heart failure by about 10%. This means that a person with a 104 centimetre waist is close to 40% more likely to suffer heart failure than one with a 94 centimetre waist.
So I'm fascinated in this because it seems like it's more about where we carry the fat in our bodies rather than overall weight, which begs the question, Dr Nick, is it better to ditch the scales, which I love, and concentrate on just measuring our waistlines?
Well, the problem with the stomach fat is that it surrounds our vital organs and it releases chemicals that can cause inflammation linked to all kinds of diseases. But the particular threat is cardiovascular disease, which is the major killer here in Australia. So there is nothing wrong with a tape measure around your midriff.
Anyone else? I feel like I'm sucking it in right now.
Just suck it in.
Yeah. So it's on the inside that counts, does. So from slimming down to dozing off, the reasons behind why we dream remain a mystery. There's all kinds of theories, from it's a safe way to learn how to deal with challenging situations and problem solve, or it's a way for our memory to reorganise what we've learned during the day. All of these theories have at least one thing in common. When we're stressed or even a bit anxious, we either dream more or we remember our dreams more as a way of coping. Isn't that interesting?
It is. I'm not one that remembers their dreams too often. I tend to just occasionally get something weird pops into my mind from a few weeks back. But are you someone that remembers your dreams?
I do not remember my dreams at all. But don't you remember during COVID, everybody commented that they were having really intense, really vivid dreams, perhaps related to the anxiety at that time.
And I think our kids as well maybe remember their dreams more. Of course, your kids always coming into your room at night saying they've had a nightmare.
Yes, and now you've given me one. Yes. One person has no trouble remembering her dreams is 31-year-old Queenslander Becky Sharrock. In fact, she can remember every dream she's ever had.
Every dream I've ever had, I remember. And when I started dreaming, it was in between my first and second birthday. And I received a surprise one night when I just found myself in a place that wasn't home or it wasn't my bed. But at the age of 1, I didn't really understand, and I thought I really was being taken away from home. And then I'd be scared to go to sleep for many years. And then at 3, I was finally able to ask Mum, why do you keep taking us to all of these strange places every night? And Mum just said one time, we didn't go out last night. And I said, yes, we did. You took us to Dream World and we saw the Gumnut Fairy and we all turned into fairies. And then she said it must have been a dream. And then I said, what's a dream?
Becky is the only person in Australia and one of just a handful around the world who has the gift of total recall. It's called HSAM, and you'll hear her incredible story right after this.
I get lots of inquiries about arthritis. We're talking here about painful joints, things that can really affect our quality of life. Inflammation is something we need to settle, and we do that in a herbal sense with some very, very effective herbs, things like turmeric and celery, ginger, boswellia. And it's very important as well to recognise the benefits of essential fatty acids, which we find in fish. And a move to the so-called anti-inflammatory diet with a focus on fish, extra virgin olive oil, lots of vegetables, can make a difference. This is not a short-term benefit. This is a change in the sorts of things that you do each day. Another painful issue I'm often asked about are cramps, especially at night time. They can be sudden, they're painful, and until the muscle actually relaxes, the pain and discomfort stays with you. What we're looking for is electrolyte replacement and hydration. The herb involved has got a good name. It's called cramp bark, Viburnum opulus, and that's especially good for muscle cramps too. Sadly, we just can't get a magnesium blood test, but if you find you get the occasional spasm or twitch or even a minor cramp, it probably shows your magnesium levels are on the low side. Speak to your pharmacist, get guidance on the most appropriate magnesium supplement, and that issue will settle fairly quickly. As we grow a little older, retaining our memory function and brain function is very important. Sure, we want to be mobile as well, but keeping our marbles is pretty important. There's renewed emphasis on the Mediterranean-style food options. Full dairy, yogurt, cheese, fish is the best protein, even a glass of wine, there's nothing wrong with that. But the slick marketing on the more modern foods often takes away the emphasis on the fundamentals. The herb of choice is an Indian herb or Ayurvedic herb called Brahmi. And Brahmi can almost be regarded as a brain tonic. Of course, if your symptoms persist, speak to your health professional. They'll give you the best advice, but most importantly, live well, be well, stay well.
I think we've all heard the phrase photographic memory, which is the ability to recall an image or an event with absolute precision after just seeing it once. Now, Joe, I think you'd probably have a pretty good memory. Is there much that slips through with you or not?
I have a terrible
Really?
memory. I can't remember names, places, people, except when it comes to my husband. I'm very good at remembering everything that's happened when it comes to him.
I reckon my memory used to be pretty good, but as we get older, it's like everything. We need to work on it, needs a bit of practice to keep it active. But studies have found that most people's memories date back to around about when they were 3, which is the age when our brains develop at an astonishing rate.
I was fascinated to read that people tend to remember 10% of what they hear, 20% of what they read, and 80% of what they see. So I guess that's why we say you have to see it to believe it.
Well, that makes sense to me, Jack. We all have things we'd rather forget, and there's standout events that we're always trying to hang on to. But imagine being able to remember every moment of your life from birth in chronological order.
That ability is known as HSAM, or highly sensitive autobiographical memory. Fewer than 100 people in the world have it, and only one here in Australia. Her name is Becky Sharrock, a Brisbane woman with a truly amazing mind.
For my entire life, my mind's been more fixated on the past than the present. As a 3-year-old, I'd talk to Mum about the past a lot, and then Mum would say, why don't you talk about things which are happening now?
Being diagnosed with autism and OCD as a child, Becky's memories of the past would often cause meltdowns.
I'd just be uncontrollably yelling and screaming just over an issue during the day because my mind just couldn't let go of something which happened long ago.
I knew she had a good memory, and what threw me, with autism at that stage, they thought people with autism didn't have emotion. There wasn't much emotion attached. But she would relive memories very emotionally. And then I saw the 60 Minutes program and I thought, this is it.
The segment on 60 Minutes was about a rare condition called HSAM, highly superior autobiographical memory.
One of the people who had been identified was talking about the loss of her dog, and I think at that point she said, I'm living it now, and that was it. I just knew.
This was the missing piece of the puzzle that Becky and her family had been searching for. And so after working with the University of California, Irvine for 2 years, Becky was one of the 60 people in the world to be diagnosed with this rare condition.
So with my HSAM, my mind, for some reason, just remembers every event from my past. That was my McDonald's party for my 7th birthday.
Yep.
The first thing that comes to me are my personal experiences, but when it comes to my very earliest memories, 9 times out of 10 I can't date them because I didn't know about calendars when I was 3 years old or when I was 1 year old. But I remember the experience still. Oh, that's just after I burnt my finger because there was a candle.
Yeah.
And at one, I didn't know the dangers of it and I just touched the flame and then...
The memories are triggered by everything. Smells, it's quite common that people now know you smell something, a cake, and you think, I remember my mum's cakes. But Beck would say, you know, the clouds in a particular position in the sky. And she'd say the last time that cloud was in that position was such and such a day and this is what I was doing and this is what I was feeling. We remember things, but I don't know. I can think back 12 years of age, I remember I had a birthday party. But I don't know how I felt when I got up in the morning.
I was laughing because she didn't know when there was a picture taken on that same day when I poked my tongue out.
Becky remembers the past chronologically and is often asked what her earliest memory is.
When I cast my mind back as far as it can possibly go, I just remember myself just with my legs tucked in and then my arms around me. We're assuming that's from when I was in the womb, but it could possibly have also been of me in a blanket as well, but I'm assuming it's when I was in the womb. She was 6 because it was the Peter Pan.
I didn't know it went back so far. I mean, one of the first things I ever said when I found out she could remember what it was like to be a baby, I just said, oh, I'm so sorry if I ever swore or said anything inappropriately to you when I thought you were 6 months old and you couldn't understand, you know, if I was around. And she just said, don't worry, you didn't swear as much as Nana.
See, there's Sparky giving a lick.
Yeah.
Reliving positive memories is a blessing. As an adult, I can still enjoy my birthdays. That's a blessing. The downside's definitely reliving negative memories is a downside, and going so deeply into the memory to the point where I just start crying as if it's happening now.
We say build a bridge, just get over it. It's a long time ago. And she'd say, but for me, it's right now. And that's the thing with HSAM. 20 years ago is right now for them.
Becky's memories flood her mind day and night, and the way to help stop this is by keeping her mind busy.
I can now do maybe some mindfulness exercises whenever they come along, just to ground my thoughts until my mind moves on to something else.
Minecraft and Lego are some of the activities Becky engages in, but she's now found a passion for languages.
C'est faisant, elle fait travailler.
And can speak French and Spanish and is looking at learning a lot more.
It's my lifetime goal. I'm hoping to learn all the languages now.
Vous habitiez déjà ensemble en 1990?
When she's got a motivation for a topic, she goes into that topic. You know, I like, you know, space. She knows the name of all the telescopes. She knows the name of all the stars. She knew the names of the moons around the planets. I wouldn't have a clue, but because she's motivated, she'll discover it, and it's the same with her memories.
I feel like a show pony sometimes, but then I say that it's not really extraordinary, it's just the way, it's a different way of living.
Interesting to me that Becky sees her condition as a burden at times. I suppose being unable to forget some things that happen in life would be a bit of a nightmare, I suppose.
Well, I reckon we've all got things that we'd rather forget. But for the general population, memory is a good thing to hang on to. Our ability to remember new information peaks around about our 20s, and then it starts to decline from our 50s or 60s. So while you've got it, it is a gift.
One of the funniest things Becky's mum, Janet, talked about off camera was that she uses Becky's ability to her advantage. Like if the TV is broken, Becky can recall when they bought it. And if it's still under warranty, I don't mind that, Jo.
I love that, because otherwise you're going to rummage through that bottom drawer in the kitchen and why have I got everything but the very thing that I need? That is a definite upside. It is a fascinating story, and you can see more of Becky and her family in a feature-length documentary that screened at this year's Melbourne International Film Festival.
It's a great film, so keep an eye out for it on all good streaming services to see when it will be available for wider release. Our roll call of remarkable people continues after this. We meet the Afghani refugee who's hanging five in the Aussie surf. That's next on the House of Wellness.
You don't have to be a health expert to understand the importance of moving every day, Sarah. You can just feel the benefits for the mind and body. Tying into that is our muscle health, ensuring that we can stay active any way we choose.
Luckily, there is a nutrient for muscle health, Heinzie, magnesium. One of 7 macro minerals we need to consume in large amounts.
And how do you know if you're not getting enough? Well, one way to tell is if your muscles start to spasm or cramp.
That's because magnesium helps regulate contractions and muscle relaxation, supporting their overall function. We may also experience low energy levels when we're magnesium deficient.
Those symptoms should be motivation enough to up your magnesium intake. And the good news is one solution is food. We're talking delicious things like avocados, nuts, bananas, fatty fish. One of my favourites, dark chocolate, is also a fantastic source of the mighty mineral.
We can also find magnesium in supplement form. Speak to your pharmacist for specially formulated muscle support.
Look out for the well-absorbed magnesium Ultra Muscle Ease for relieving cramps when dietary intake is inadequate, plus B vitamins to assist energy levels.
My muscles are very grateful, Heinzie. You want to get in there?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask, Sarah. Oh my goodness, can I have your workout routine?
I know, right?
That's so strong. I feel embarrassed.
You should.
The A to Z of Vitamins is brought to you by Bioceuticals Ultra Muscle Ease for specially formulated muscle support. Found exclusively behind the counter. Ask your pharmacist for Ultra Muscle Ease.
Thanks, Heinzie and Sarah, adding their combined muscle to keep us fighting fit. As Heinzie said, finding ways to stay active and keep moving every day is the key to good muscle health. And now that summer's almost here, I can't wait to hit the water. What about you, Jo?
Well, I like being next to the water. I don't go in the water,
Not hitting
Jack.
it.
No, I don't hit the water. I don't swim. It's not my vibe. But I do love running next to it. That's my thing in summer, running next to the water. What about you?
I used to be a mad keen windsurfer when that was still a thing. But then the third baby arrived and that forbade that.
It certainly does, don't they? They do get in the way. We all have our summer thing, though, don't we? And Massey Mobin really takes the prize. After surviving the horrors of fleeing his war-torn country, Afghanistan, and hardships that few of us can even imagine, he settled here 13 years ago.
Yeah, and his chronic fear of water, and the last thing you'd expect is to see Massey hit the surf. It's an incredible story. Not only is he a gun on a surfboard, he's teaching others how to ride the wave of life, no matter how tough things get.
Every Sunday, Massey Mobin can be found riding the man-made waves of Melbourne's urban surf pool. But when onlookers learn that Massey is from the landlocked country of Afghanistan, they always have the same question.
Oh, the best reaction is it's like, how the hell did you learn how to surf?
Massey's journey to this point has been full of challenges most of us couldn't even imagine. When he was 14, his family were forced to flee their hometown after learning that the Taliban was searching for his father, a chemical engineer who had been working for the government.
We didn't pack anything, we just went to Kabul, and my dad found out that these people is after him, and there is a price to go to heaven on his head. And that's one of the biggest reasons that we left the country. So my dad, my family, they went to Pakistan, and my uncle and I, decided to go and seek asylum.
After making it to Jakarta, Massey and his uncle tried to get to Australia by boat. The first time, they were intercepted by Indonesian officials. The second time, the boat capsized, leaving Massey clinging to a plank of wood in the middle of the sea.
That was actually the first time I actually tasted the seawater. I didn't know the seawater was salty, and my body reacted really badly. And then I saw every single person, including my uncle, that which I never forget, drown one by one. And I thought that was my last chance, and I did give up that time. But what triggered me, that I remember my mom is waiting for me. After 16 hours, I got rescued by a fisherman. And then they took us back to the detention center, and they locked us up just because we were refugee with no crimes or anything. They locked us up for 1.5 year, 24-hour locked up. I did not have any direct sunshine. There was 2 meals a day. One was a small, tiny bread in the morning, and in the afternoon there was a rice with a bit of ketchup. So what I've seen in that place was, I still get nightmares the way they torture me. And I've got a small mark in front of my eyes, and that's where one of the marks that I'm carrying for the rest of my life.
Eventually, Massey befriended a large Afghani family who didn't have enough money to bribe their way out of the detention centre. Instead, they gave Massey everything they had. On his third attempt, he made it to Australia, where after a further 18 months in detention, he finally got his freedom.
I could not mentally believe that I actually made it. I still remember I was going to every single building and touching the building and try and pinch myself if this is actually real or am I dreaming.
Along with running his own painting business and working at the surf centre on weekends, Massey is also studying to get his building and construction diploma. Stick around to hear more of Massey's incredible story right after this. Last year's images of the fall of Kabul to the Taliban highlighted just how much suffering is happening in Afghanistan. Since 2013, more than 23,000 Afghans have come to Australia in search of a better life. One of them is Massey Mobin, who settled in Melbourne and discovered a new passion that's given him even more skills on how to navigate the ups and downs of life.
After spending nearly 4 years in Indonesian and Australian detention centres, Massey Mobin lived in Sydney for 10 years, where for a long time he struggled to find work.
I could hardly speak any English, and we got discriminated a lot. We never paid the right amount. I remember my first work was as a car wash, and the guy was paying me $4 an hour. And I remember one day I was walking in Newtown, and I had 200 resumes, and I handed out to every single shops or anything that they knew, and I couldn't get a job. And this is the time that when my family had no clue, that I couldn't find contact with them, and I thought I'm the only survivor out of my family, and that was one of the toughest times.
It was only after teaching himself to swim that Massey finally found steady employment as a lifeguard at several swimming centres. 3 years ago, he moved to Melbourne, where he was offered a job at a brand new pool that was just opening up.
When I went there, I had no clue about this place. It was the first wave that they tested it, and they fill up the pool and they start the waves, and there was another 20, 30 people that they came to have a look at the first waves, and I still had no clue what was wave and what was surfing. Everyone else was looking at the waves, and I was looking at their face, and I could see there's a joy coming through their eyes. And I said, doesn't matter what it is, I want to give it a try and I want to learn it.
So Massey ran out so super excited on this massive foamy, and unsurprisingly, he popped up pretty quickly, and then from there the bug just bit, and every spare second that he could get out the water, you would always see him run across after grabbing a board and jump in the water. And the day that he got his first barrel, everybody was just going nuts all around, and there was a talk in the break room and everything about the first barrel of Massey, and it was something pretty special.
It's just, first, it's one of the great sport, and the joy that you get out of it is priceless. But what I actually really love about surfing is it doesn't matter how small or big you are, you can always get crashed down. And you get fall, tumble, turns. All you can do is just grab your board and paddle back to the point and try it again. And that's one of the best philosophies that I learned from surfing, and I do implement in everything in life. I've seen the worst in life since I was a kid. If I have passed these things, then I can pass anything in life.
Today, Massey is riding high. A few years ago, he finally managed to make contact with his family through social media.
My dad got a job in Kazakhstan, and they're living in Kazakhstan now. So I went to visit them after 12 years. My mom couldn't talk to me for hours, and every time she tried to open her mouth, she was crying. It was one of the best experiences that I've reunited with my family.
In 2020, Massey completed an apprenticeship and started up his own company, Expert Painting and Renovation, employing a group of friends he met on the boat from Jakarta.
3 of them, they can't speak, so I learned a little bit of sign language through them. And yeah, so we all, 6, 7 of us, all refugees. We came the same boat, and we want to do something great in life. Anything is possible if you put the hard work and determination. And everything is temporarily, including the worst time in life. There's always a sunshine at the end. You just need to wait and be patient.
I'm not going to pretend to have any idea what it's like having to flee your country as a refugee. But when I migrated here permanently from the UK in the late 80s, I barely knew anyone here at all, but you Aussies were a very welcoming bunch.
Well, Afghanistan is a landlocked country without any beaches, so people are incredulous at Massey's water skills. But he says if you can ride a camel, you can surf.
I can ride a course, and I must say, I think it's core strength, a lot of it, because I can surf. And I actually recently took my daughter for the first time out there to urban surf, which is where Massey is, and she had the best day ever, straight up on the board.
Darcy, I understand you took some surfing lessons in Hawaii. I do remember that.
Why do you say that with a smirk on your face, Joe?
You looked a little bit like a praying mantis on a surfboard.
Oh, well, I think we might go the vision on that, Joe. But I think more successful than I hoped. But it was good fun. How can you not surf in Hawaii? That was great fun. From staying upright on a surfboard to keeping your food down, we examined the very common condition of reflux right after this.
Everyone's foundation journey, I think, is very different. But the one thing, Ella, we have in common is we want a foundation that is really beautiful on our skin, non-toxic and clean.
And same goes with relationships. You know, we want them to be natural and beautiful and not toxic.
I agree. Is that too much to ask for?
And I also think lesson learned. No more finding love on TV for me.
And inspired by that toxic breakups, we're going to now apply that and have a makeup breakup.
So it's official. It's over with toxic foundations and we're going exclusive with New by Nature's award-winning, cult favourite and 100% natural mineral cover foundation. So the formula is super lightweight and it's also adaptable to all skin tones.
That's great.
Yeah. And you can also build on it. So you can go from a light coverage to a more heavy coverage if you want.
And like the whole New by Nature range, it's free from any nasties. So the powder is enriched with amazing ingredients like Australia's native Kakadu plum and jojoba, which is really great for nourishing your skin.
So I'm also a big fan that the mineral cover has got SPF 15 protection. I mean, I wish that we had that in the real world of dating as well.
I know, how good would that be? And the take home here is you don't have to sacrifice the beautiful finish for the natural option.
Jade, we can have it all.
We sure can.
We can have healthy makeup and healthy relationships.
Yes, I'm all for that.
Some great advice from Jade and Ella about the benefits of toxic-free foundation and relationships. One of the best things about getting older and wiser, Darcy, I think, is you learn to avoid both.
And I think women have got a great intuition around that. They're better than men in some ways. It makes you appreciate your close friends who stick by you, mentors, family, and people who genuinely have a vested interest in your happiness, Jo.
And yes, I think that women have a gut instinct for what's going to be a good relationship and not. And to keep those people who drain your emotions or bring us down at arm's length, that has been such a freeing learning from me. Not only for your mental well-being, but because bad relationships can actually harm you physically. Can give you high blood pressure, weight gain, depression even.
Yeah, bad relationships can literally make us sick to the stomach. There's no doubt about that. And when your gut is telling you something isn't quite right, it's a pretty good indication that it isn't. Here's Dr. Nick Carr with more.
I still remember my first time. Yes, it was 2 o'clock in the morning and I woke with this severe burning chest pain. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm having a heart attack. And then I realised, no, hang on, I'm a healthy 25-year-old. So I went and had a glass of milk and my heart attack went away. That was my welcome to the world of reflux, when acid gets up from the stomach into the lower esophagus or gullet. And the symptoms vary from a bit of mild heartburn to, well, like I had, severe chest pain and nausea. So what's going on? Well, our stomachs produce acid to help digest our food. And for the chemists watching, the pH is anywhere between 1 and 3, which is pretty close to that of battery acid. Ouch. Now, the cells that line the stomach are tough little critters, and they can cope with the acid, but not so the cells in the gullet, which are a bit more fragile. So there's a muscular valve which stops the acid going back up, and that works really well until it doesn't. Alcohol, smoking, obesity and pregnancy all can cause loosening of the valve and trigger reflux. But I was a healthy 25-year-old, didn't smoke or drink, certainly wasn't pregnant. Well, turns out that reflux is one of those things that can happen to anyone, a bit like asthma and diabetes. There's also a weird version called silent reflux, where a little bit of acid sneaks up into the gullet, not enough to cause burning, but it can irritate the back of the throat, causing chronic cough or hoarseness of the voice. So what can we do? Well, apart from the cigarettes and whiskey, other things to avoid are things like spicy foods, tomatoes, chocolate, and certain medications like anti-inflammatories. Curiously, peppermint, which we normally think of as pretty healthy, can also relax the valve and trigger reflux. Tight clothes are also a potential risk, so maybe ditch the skinny jeans and the corset. Now, if despite the lifestyle changes you're still getting reflux and antacids aren't helping, there are medications called proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs, that are really effective. They switch off the acid-producing cells and hey presto, reflux gone. Mostly. Now, a word of warning. If you're over 45 and get bad reflux for the first time, or there are other things like weight loss or vomiting, then straight to the doctor. And if your reflux is really bad chest pain, then unlike me at the age of 25, it actually could be your heart. So don't hesitate to call 000. We don't want you heading to the fridge for another glass of milk, only to have you die of a heart attack.
Cetaphil have just celebrated their 75th birthday in October. Everybody loves a birthday, and we've celebrated 75 years since the launch of our gentle skincare range. But don't let the age fool you. Our much-loved hero product formulations have been new and improved. Skin sensitivity is really common and can present in many different ways across all age groups and different skin tones. It can happen anywhere on the body, especially the face. Sensitive skin can be triggered by a multitude of different factors like diet, exercise, even the weather, which is something that's completely out of our control. Over the last 75 years, Cetaphil has partnered with dermatologists to identify the 5 key signs of skin sensitivity, which are dryness, irritation, roughness, tightness, and a weakened skin barrier. The best way of combating skin sensitivity is to look for products that are scientifically formulated and science-backed. So looking for ingredients like niacinamide that helps to strengthen the skin's natural moisture barrier to improve the skin's function, panthenol or provitamin B5, which helps to soothe and restore dry skin, which also results in a more supple appearance, and glycerin. So glycerin's a humectant that draws moisture from the air into the skin to keep it really nice and hydrated and also prevent against dryness. In Australia, we're lucky to enjoy one of the best summer seasons in the world, and skincare in those months is really, really important. So the best routine is to have a consistent routine, morning and evening. So in the morning, using a gentle skin cleanser, always following up with a lightweight moisturiser, and making sure that you're also applying adequate sun protection with a high SPF factor 50+. But in the evening, that's when our skin does the hardest work. So making sure that the skin is nice and clean and cleansed and well hydrated so that the skin can repair its natural moisture barrier overnight. Our skin is the largest organ in the human body and it deserves special care.
Some good skincare tips there, all the more important as we head into summer. And not long till we're slapping on that 50+, Darcy.
Yeah, the summer gear isn't far off, Joe, and neither is the FIFA Women's World Cup being played in Australia and New Zealand next year.
Oh, this is so great. It's such a big deal. 32 teams participating for the first time in the Southern Hemisphere. It's an incredible celebration of football and seeing women's sport go beyond greatness, which is the catch cry for the tournament.
It is 9 months off, but getting us all excited is Sarai Berman, the FIFA Women's CFO, who's in town from Zurich. She's a passionate trailblazer, driving diversity and reform in the world of women's football and sport. And here she is.
Women's football is incredible. I live and breathe it every day. It's such a privilege. It's, I think, our obligation as FIFA to spread that further and further to more and more participants all over the world. And the World Cup is going to be amazing. What we see on the pitches and in the stadiums is going to be incredible. But it's actually about so much more than just a tournament. You know, the spin-off effects of having the single biggest female sporting event in the world, especially here in Australia and in New Zealand, they're going to be massive. Here in Australia, we've got superstar Sam Kerr now. You know, it wasn't that long ago that there's no way you would have been able to see her on the front cover of, you know, the FIFA PlayStation game or seeing her on posters on walls, you know, her name on the back of men and boys, let alone girls and women. So it's things like that. You know, our players are becoming household names and a Women's World Cup is going to take that to the next level.
The event kicks off in New Zealand in July with the final scheduled to be in August in Sydney. Around 1 million tickets will go on sale and you can get yours now at this website. And I also add that FIFA sold more tickets on the first day of ticket sales here in Australia and New Zealand than the whole of the first week of the 2019 World Cup in France. How good is that?
It's amazing, isn't it? Absolutely astonishing. And I think it's great to see that such a massive and ambitious event is being held in two very different cultures.
Oh, absolutely. And we just love sport here in Australia, but women's sport particularly is just so exciting to see the development. Sarai actually played in the Samoan women's national team, so she's hit the heights in her sport and she's been instrumental in making change and forming new strategies within FIFA too. She is amazing.
Well, I'm genuinely looking forward to that event next year. That's it for our show today. Joe, Dr. Nick and Jacqui, it's been great seeing you as always.
Gerald Quickly will be joining me on the House of Wellness radio show again this Sunday.
Check out the House of Wellness website for more on the show.
Thanks as always to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you again soon.